Yeah, I can hear. Only if they had skylights. So I can see the sun.
Yeah, did you want to talk about bulk at all? Did you want to talk about bulk at all?
Sure. So this is kind of the end of the line as far as bulk goes. The beginning of it is right where you guys kind of entered through into the receiving area, and it loops back and forth in a back and forth manner through each aisle until you end up. This is about the end of the line. It's a 54. This is where initially you start off roughly in the 50-pound, 25-pound bags. Work your way gradually up. Obviously, most of this stuff is lighter stuff, key boxes, and the Azure in-house product. As you work your way through, obviously the design is set up to build your pallet as you're going, so you don't have to rearrange anything to be able to build a proper pallet and be prepared to ship. Beyond this aisle is actually the back side is chips and a lot of the cereals that we sell. And at the end of this aisle is where the setup is actually to go to the produce. You just saw that guy loop around the corner. He's probably going back down to the coolers to go pick up his produce that belongs right on top of that. And then actually it loops back over to here to the chip aisles where chips belong on top of produce. So that way you don't crush your produce with any heavier objects or anything of that nature. So this aisle is primarily the Azure in-house product, but there's a little bit of bobs down on the end and whatnot. This aisle doesn't feel a whole lot of action. There's some storage of all our honey right back there, and that's where we dip our diatomaceous, so it's not out in the open for anyone to get it all over them and whatnot. Kind of out of the way, so we don't have it all over everything. So we'll work our way down to the produce area and kind of give you a glimpse of that.
Wait, what is this? Why do people want to eat it? Yeah, that's...
So as you can see, there's quite a large, massive product that most people just plain don't expect when they come here, because we're talking about 7 racks tall, anywhere from hundreds to thousands of pounds per pallet, all the way down to where we started, and 4 aisles deep. So it gives you a little idea of how much product we're actually handling here. I think, how many different products do we have right now, David? Something like 10,000?
There's
8,000?
okay. Like 9,000 something.
9,000?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so between 9,000 items and sometimes hundreds of the same thing, it takes a lot of space to cover the floor. Yeah, that's our new vendor.
What does it say?
It does say food grade.
Yep. Food chemical codex grade. It's pretty close.
It does say it on it.
Good stuff.
Battle paid off.
Yeah, for sure. We've got... No, it's going to be the same. Switch it out. The same item because we need to run out of current stock first.
We're almost out.
We're almost out of the Eagle picture?
Yep.
So we're almost out of that, and then we'll just switch it out, change the ingredients.
We actually don't even have enough for the bulk to be able to use anymore. We only have a couple left to dip out.
Okay.
So
good.
We're waiting until that gets used up, which there's only about half the bag left. So. No, whatever's available that we have on the website is all that needs to be, because it is food grade. It's only classified as like a 1 on, what is that, they call it harvest or whatever they call it. So the only thing it basically can cause is minor irritation if it's on your skin and whatnot.
For your eyes.
Yeah, it does say you don't want to really breathe it in, but just a plain dust mask is enough to cover the grounds. We've actually done a lot of research on that to make sure a plain dust mask is enough to cover your grounds on that. Just rubber gloves, possibly some goggles, or kind of the setup we use when we dip it in a 5-pound bag. He generally wears a garbage bag, a couple gloves, and a dust mask. Yeah, well, I just want to get all his clothes. It does get kind of itchy, so.
That's perfect.
It should take you guys in the cooler.
One by one, we get a free ride.
It's probably enough. You guys want to dip in here real quick?
Yeah, I was going to run them up through one thing here real quick.
Alright.
So, if anyone was curious, this is how we get the product onto the 7-rack. This unit booms out and extends all the way up to the top of the rack. And as I stated earlier, everything is marked into a location. So he has with him a scanner and a computer on the machine, so he can say, okay, this item is being moved to that location and put it up there. So, just if you were curious how we actually got it up there, deal. This guy does bulk overstock to primary locations, so his function is to take product wherever it may be in the system and put it into its primary location available for the pullers. If the needs list is functioning properly, you should be able to just go through the needs list and fulfill the needs for the day and have enough product available that they can just keep moving. 9 times out of 10, though, it's not perfect, and the bulk pullers actually take their label to the stock transfer guy saying, hey, I need some of this. So he'll go to that location and bring it down for him and stock the pull and keep the ball rolling.
Yep.
This is a produce dip area. It's basically the same as what Tony Dressel back in the core area does. She breaks down 20-pound boxes, 40-pound boxes, whatever the product may be, oranges, lemons, limes, apples, as she's doing right now. Huge deal on the apples. We run through a lot of apples, as you all probably know. Ginger, so on and so forth. She does all the labeling, stickering, tagging, bagging, you name it. If it's dipped produce, it comes from here.
So how do they get past produce?
Yeah, that's
Because
generally
we can't go through all of it,
exactly how it
and
works.
because we
Whenever
also
have
pull
the
bulk
stuff
that's in a
or
box,
whatever,
then we don't go through it all.
there's a huge price
This is all
variation
small
to
ticket
try to
stuff
shoot
that
for
gets
something
broken
that
down.
So realistically, they
isn't
shouldn't
a
get any
top-dollar
of that
item.
Not from this
Not
process,
from this
Whatever we have
process.
but
to
from
It's
bulk
just
they
like-
can. And
So
part of
that's
that,
kinda one of those
part of that
things
is
where
also because
it
we
could be
get
whatever
caught
that,
in the deal where
day of the week, if
we have produce
a
that's
lot of
not
granny
great
Smiths, we're going to use that. If we have a lot of
versus
people
outing or
that's what
sending
we're
that,
gonna use.
they would put stuff in. So
Exactly.
I think with the changes
that's
we've
what I'm
made,
talking about. We
we've been in a
actually
better
only
place
had
because
six ones in season
with our produce
this
buyer
year,
in here now,
because
he can
that's
actually check
basically
that
all we
produce
had, you know,
and
and
get
we
it
wanted
returned
to
right away and get us back.
But like you
So
said,
we've already made some
when
huge
the
strides
price
in the last
variation
few weeks.
is several dollars,
We're going to be in a lot
we're
better
probably
spot.
going to shoot for something like a
Maybe
break
they came up with a really great process for getting that produce.
Probably not.
Yeah, she's a good.
But I think we will
just
shortly.
make our best judgment.
Yeah, I think so. I think, like I said, I know it's been a huge deal.
Yeah,
but I
actually,
think-
there's a new produce buyer that just came in house. His name's Bob. I don't know if he's actually here today. Okay, that's good. His primary function is to not only make sure there's stock available, but to make sure the quality is upkept, because it is kind of a consistent issue that the produce isn't kept up to par, and as it is, it's really because there's such a large quantity of it, and it's hard to actually physically look at every single item and make sure especially when, you know, the buyer wasn't on site previously, and you know, we could get issues directly from the vendor. You know, as soon as the product hit the floor, it already had mold on it in a lot of scenarios. And we end up dipping a lot of that stuff out to make, you know, make do with what we can get out of it. But, you know, especially when it comes to oranges, we've had a lot of issues with oranges in the last year and a half or so. As soon as they come in, they're already, you know, in pretty bad shape. So we end up,
With him doing that, like, a little bit way.
He's already rejected several pallets.
Yeah.
He rejected this whole pallet of wine saps.
yeah,
We've had a huge improvement.
yeah. Well, see, and those wine sacks came in the
crack.
in the bottom, where it not where it
molded
connects, the
flower
opposite
at the
side to where it connects to the tree. And yeah, right where the blossom is exactly. And you know, something like that, the mold right on it, right when it comes in. You know, why would we want to pay for something like that? Obviously, our customers aren't going to want to pay for something like that.
I think they were slipping it through because no one was checking before.
Well, yeah, and you know, we caught some of that stuff in a lot of scenarios, but it tended to be a pretty big issue to try to get it back to the vendor. A lot of times I would end up calling Sarah directly and say, hey, you know, 18 cases of lemons came in moldy, and what are we going to do with these? And we'd end up, you know, shipping them back on the sea route, and they try to replace them instead of just crediting us. You know, a lot of times they just want to replace it instead of giving us our money back. So
We've actually put quite a bit of thought into how we were doing that. I think we're all aware that it hasn't been a shining area for us. And you know, I think from what David's told me, produce is 9 out of 10 best sellers for us. So obviously we want to do a better job. Some of the things that we've already seen an improvement just from having that buyer here to be able to check that quality, because a lot of times what we've had is that a lot of times the produce comes in at night, and so you know, we have a guy that takes care of that, and it kind of checks the quality, but who does he go to get an answer as to whether we should reject it or not? Well,
And he's really not trained to do that anymore.
mm-hmm.
So now he can just say, hey, Bob, look at this, this, and this. And Bob is trained for that. He has about 5 years of experience already before coming here in produce quality. He worked for Charlie's. Conventional produce primarily, but it's really similar.
We've seen just at the end of last week we had some deals with the coconuts, and having him here made a difference. Instead of and that was a situation where we were going to have to out some customers on coconuts, and we didn't end up having to do that because we were able to get some stuff handled quickly enough to take care of it because he was here on site. And then, like David said, we had a pallet of wine saps that we didn't accept, and there's been a couple other things that we've been able to turn really quickly, where before part of the problem was even that if we didn't accept it, what did we do? Because we didn't have a remedy for that necessarily. And so we've already seen some improvement. I'm really excited moving forward with where that's going.
And he does have time to read his email every day and stuff, whereas Sarah, that was a tough job. She's out doing starts and all that stuff. She goes, oh, it's 10 o'clock at night. Start checking things. It's not really timely. He's going to be here every day. He's got the time to take care of that. If you do have issues, you know there's a couple bad things, emails. Tell him, hey, check that out.
So is he the one that's going to be going on the website and updating, like, the kind of oranges we have, and now we're going to actually have labels?
Yeah.
Somebody and somebody.
Well, yeah, probably not. Yeah, he's been semi-trained to do that. He's not fully trained in that area yet. That's been probably his hardest spot. He's not the media guy. He's been a produce guy.
I don't think that's a big deal.
Yeah, they are enabled.
Okay. To win. I know, every year.
Yeah, and he can update all that.
Good. Yippee.
He is actually coming out here cutting gates, and he rejected a bunch of mangoes, which obviously would be bad for a while. Because, and they're not visibly bad on the outside. They look okay, but you cut them open and they're black inside.
Yeah, I was wondering why we ended up with that large pallet of mangoes in the first place. There was a lot. It was about that tall of mangoes.
And they were basically all black.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in bad shape.
We have actually 3 different temperature levels.
It's nice and warm in here. Come on in.
I don't want to. No. Yeah.
This is the only one that doesn't have to where it's actually designed to be a little bit more realistic. A lot of the items we keep in here, especially during fall, are like soft that aren't actually just really cold and actually get bad on them.
Video camera. I don't want to.
Yes, there is.
In a lot of cases, what we do is we have we set it there so it will rain out into this area, and then we grade that outside. Now, we also found out we were having a problem getting mine, so we wanted to lift them up off the ground so they were not able to get at them and chew on them all the time. We were having just a tremendous amount of loss from the bid. This probably could have came in last night, so it hasn't gotten put up yet. But if it sits down here for any amount of time, they'll get chewed on. Yeah, that's pretty common as far as broccoli goes. It's something they do to help it stay preserved. And as far as like when we ship it cold, we put it in large garbage bags, 2-cent garbage bags, and we're actually going to be moving somewhere in the future, something to that effect. It has no problem in the past where the broccoli on top of the pallet is just laying down the side and destroying the product. That's why it's in garbage bags, and that's why we use it.
One of the things we've done more recently too, just because those bags end up getting ripped and they end up leaking anyway, is instead of putting them on top of the pallets, we just hold them on the ground. So when they're in the truck, they're by the pallet that they're going to go with, and so if they leak or anything, they're just leaking on the floor of the trailer instead of through the pallet, which has been the problem. So little things like that.
I'm freezing over here.
Hey! Yeah. I just wanted you guys up to the breathing. Oh, you did, right? Yeah, I can't do anything with it, though. I tried to tell it.
This one was the main app pressure, so pretty warm.
Still have apples. This one's at 33 degrees, right at freezing.
I'm gonna go and see them.
They won't. We can go to the freezer.
I'm gonna get much of video from out here.
The dark. Why is that? No, it's coming in.
Yeah, yep. Basically anything that's cooler items. A lot of the areas what they were doing before